I remember a part from a Stephen King book that stood out to me as a teenager. It might have been from The Stand, but I don't know for sure anymore. One of the characters was an author who was being described by his ex-girlfriend as probably the only author who wrote all of his books in second person. It annoyed her to no end that he always addressed the protagonists of his books with you. The part she's quoting is about you going through a door and you seeing the light, and I think you sitting on the hood of your car. What I remember is that it's played for laughs. As I understand it, Stephen King is making an author joke there. Throughout most of his books there is a side character who is an author, and in some it's even the main one, like in The Shining. Maybe he was thinking how absurd it would be if someone wrote a whole book from a second person perspective, and he came up with this guy. But all video games, I would argue, are texts written in second person perspective, and the you in the text is referring to the human players themselves. You are the protagonists. The strongest experience one can have when reading a text written like this is that it can feel to the reader like having their own actions being described to them, while not actually doing anything. It can be a very dreamlike experience. Reading is to books what playing is to video games, right? So in this video, I will use the words reading and playing interchangeably in the context of games, aka the text. When I was a kid, I found this book with walkthroughs for DOS adventure games at the public library. Even though I never played or even heard of any of these games, I just couldn't stop reading it. Before my inner eye, the words described in these pages, in step-by-step instructions of how to beat the games, looked like real to me. Precisely because I had never actually seen any of these games, which back then had most likely pixelated 2D graphics. I don't remember if the book was written in second person, but read any guide on GameFAQs right now, and you're most likely to find one addressing the reader with you, telling them how to beat the game. So it is not a big stretch to imagine the games themselves as being written in second person, not just as a guide, but as a narrative, similar to a text adventure game. Something like, you are standing unarmed behind a table, with your back to the wall of a small green and grey room. 2 Russian military guards are standing between you and the only way out. You look at your Walther PPK lying on the table, unloaded, its magazine lying neatly beside it. You wonder if you can grab it in time before they open fire. The guards start their questioning, but you just ignore them. You run towards the first one and slap the shit out of him with precise karate chops. As he loses consciousness, you grab his Tokarev and start unloading into the second guy. The shots echo from the walls. The metal door opens. The other guards have been alarmed. You adjust your aim while glancing at the ammo counter. Shit, you think. Should I just restart the level? Legendary video game essayist Noah Jarvis proposed in an interview that it's mainly first-person games that could be considered as written in second person. I guess the thinking there being that having a character in third person visible on screen all the time makes the avatar the main protagonist, while in first person view it's more directly the players themselves who are the protagonists of the story. But one could also argue that it's always the players directly who all games are written for. Even in first person games, one is playing a character after all. Doomguy, James Bond, Gordon Freeman, or even your original RPG character you just made up. And in games like GTA 5 and Red Dead 2, one can seamlessly switch from third into first person perspective on the fly, one that isn't an afterthought, blurring the lines even further. When playing a game, the text basically always starts with something like, you are Melina or you are Mad Max. The second person writing technique can feel unexpected sometimes, because with it the author can strongly express, almost impose, their own feelings, their worldview and their fantasies directly onto the potentially unsuspecting reader. What can make it feel uncomfortable to some people is that there's almost no distance between the protagonist and the reader. Instead of feeling second-hand embarrassment over something someone else did, the reader can be left feeling like having done something embarrassing themselves. That's why many gamers are confused. They play a game where their avatar commits a war crime or sucks a dick or something, while seemingly under their control, and they ask themselves, did I just do that? Did the game make me do something bad? Am I gay now? Am I going to hell? And some games play with this ambiguity. They tease the player. Why did you do that? Do you enjoy killing people? How much do you charge? But no, it's just a text that the players are reading. Some books, for example like American Psycho, can make you flinch physically with the minute description of bodily harm. Video games can amplify that with their audio-visual presentation and by giving an illusion of control. They are just games after all, and the things one can actually do in them are very limited. The feelings you experience while playing games can give you food for thought, but they don't actually tell you anything about you as a person yourself on a deeper level, unless you want it to. It probably even reflects more on the creators of these games who come up with these situations. Games are meant to be played, so players can never be really made to feel responsible for the actions in game, as they don't have any actual choice about what they can do in them. Yet still, this perceived ambiguity is where many games derive a great deal of their fun from. It is a big part of the immersion of players actually feeling they are part of and have agency in the virtual world. It also shows how direct the connection between creators and players can be. The creators can shape the experience so strongly. This is why games are most successful as a product when they are upfront in signaling their storytelling intentions to a potential player. This is maybe why so many mainstream games are so derivative, because this is the easiest way for players to know what to expect. And changes to well-known formulas are felt most harshly by established players, who already have set expectations, while being perfectly fine for new players. So I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. There is this side quest in Saint Denis, where you run some errands for a scientist who is inventing the electric chair or something. At the end of the quest, you get to enjoy the quote-unquote spectacle of him executing his first prisoner. So I guess I'm supposed to think, did I just help to build that? Am I a monster? Well, no, I'm not. Rockstar wrote that, and I'm just reading their story to the end, the way they wrote it, crass ending and all. Did they really expect me to feel something? Of course, it's always good to feel something, and to seek out experiences that make you feel something. And I'm definitely not saying here one should suppress one's emotions. But I shouldn't feel ashamed either for some shit some guy on a PC somewhere made up just to shock me. I could reflect on what I felt, if I felt like it, which is kinda a big ask in a game where the main game consists of starting a killing spree on the shopping boulevard. I guess that's what they call a ludonarrative dissonance. Guilt-trippy moments in games like that are a storytelling device or technique to get a race out of the player. They can appear deep and profound in the process, but these are just like jump scares, and can also be super pretentious sometimes. The takeaway here is that maybe players shouldn't be too afraid to play more experimental games. We're certainly living in a society which values some emotions higher than others, but it doesn't mean that you are a weird person because you felt a weird thing while playing a weird game. Anyway, what are your most memorable moments that blurred the line between you as the player and your character in the game? Put them down in the comments if you feel like it. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Who knows?
I'm about to break in.
I mean, nobody plays Rockstar games for their stories, right? That gay game though, that was kinda cool, not gonna lie. Really made me feel something.